and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of Hellcare, where we sit down with some interesting people and we talk about their health. Today I have Alex Hooper, comedian. You may have seen him on America's Got Talent. Alex, welcome to the show.
It's good to be an interesting person, you know? Now, I didn't know that about myself until 3 seconds ago, but now that I know I'm an interesting person, wow, off to the races, everyone.
Alex, I don't know if you know this, but I think everybody in the LA comedy scene would say you are the most interesting person, period.
I mean, I have my fun for sure. I've done a lot of weird shit in my day.
But that's great, man. Dude, that's what I admire about you, is that you're always having fun and you make the best of every shitty situation.
Try to. I mean, it's better than the alternative is what I've learned, because I used to be on the other side of it where I was angry and depressed all the time. And it just turns out those feelings didn't service me as well as looking for fun in everything I do.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Alex, you know, we know each other, but we don't really know each other. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. First, you know, I just read a little bit about you online. I know you a little bit, but you're from Baltimore originally. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So what kind of upbringing did you have, you know?
Pretty good. I mean, my parents divorced when I was early, when I was only 3 years old, but I always had a great relationship. Even though I lived with my mom most of the time, I had a great relationship with my dad, had a younger brother, older sister, and then eventually there were a lot of halves and steps in there. My parents were great. I was a monster. Hated the entire universe and the world, and thought, if I'm going to be a miserable fuck, I'm going to make everybody else as miserable as I am. And that's kind of how I lived my life for a long time, just because I didn't have any joy. I grew up with one of the worst cases of eczema you could ever imagine.
Really?
Like doctors have told me like maybe 1,000 people in the world have eczema like you do. And I'm just like, whatever I do, I don't do it in moderation. I have to push everything. And that includes when a skin condition or any other health factor comes in. They're like, oh, if you're going to have eczema, you're going to have the most eczema possible. And when I was a kid, it was really affected me because not only did I feel like shit, I looked like shit. I looked like a hot dog that was run over by a car and then just left in the sun for 3 weeks. And everything hurt all the time. I was constantly uncomfortable, scratching, couldn't sleep, sticking to my pillow, like oozing pus out of my face.
Wow.
And I felt like, that's the thing, is like, I felt like a monster. So I was like, okay, then I will act like one too. And my parents did their best with me. They really, they always treated me with pure love, but they've told me, like, my mom has said, like, you don't know how it feels to have a child in that much pain. Yeah. And there's nothing we could do. We knew there was nothing we could really do for you other than be supportive, but you almost made that impossible just because I was an ass. Like, you know, I was causing destruction everywhere I could.
Yeah. Were you kicked out of school?
I was asked to leave a lot of suspensions, I didn't do my work. So I would ace tests and get good grades, but I would never do my homework. And I dropped out in my senior year of high school, ended up getting a degree by doing the bare minimum possible. I went to this program called Home and Hospital, where it's like they take troubled kids or kids that have health problems or kids that just are pregnant, things like that. And they teach you from home. But what you do is you call into a school, into a number. So there's one teacher sitting in like a cubicle and she's teaching a class all over the phone. So I did that for 6 months and just easiest shit ever. I would do anything to just not have to do my work.
Yeah. I get that. I kind of was the same way. I didn't want to do any of the work in high school. I think I kind of found myself actually after college, and I went to college a second time, but it takes people a long time. I actually had a similar background like you. My parents were divorced when I was 2. Life was a pain in the ass.
What did you do? It was all your fault.
It was all my fault, right? I had no fucking clue what was going on. And, but it's kind of interesting. We definitely, I can kind of relate in that way. Just not knowing and understanding what that was all about when I was a kid. And I had trouble in school too. I mean, I didn't drop out or anything, but I thought that was interesting that you did drop out because didn't know that about you, number one. And number two, actually, James Taylor went to my high school. He dropped out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of really successful high school dropouts. You
there
know,
are. Well, the thing is like it's not that I didn't want to do my work that they were teaching me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't want to learn. It's just that I didn't think, I know I'm not going to be a chemist.
Yeah.
So I don't feel the need to learn chemistry and these advanced math equations.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so I just did the work that I wanted to do, which wasn't really lining up. And the worst part was in high school, I went to a magnet school. I was there to learn how to be an actor.
Mm.
And I still was like, I go to this special school that teaches me this one thing that I do enjoy, and I still don't want to fucking go there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I felt like I was just going to high school. Like I just felt I was showing up every day, and I did nothing. I cannot believe I graduated from high school. I did nothing. I literally had teachers say to me, I cannot believe you're going to college next year. I can't believe I went to college too.
Oh, well, I'll give you one even better than that. I ended up getting a scholarship to college called a presidential scholarship that this school in Pittsburgh, Point Park University, they nominated 250 students. They gave it to 50, and it was based on academic achievement, leadership skills, and community service. I didn't have any of those things.
Yeah.
But I was very good at talking my way into shit that I wanted. So when I got that interview, I was like, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm going to get this money. And it was a $40,000 scholarship. So I ended up being a high school dropout that got $40,000 to college. And then I ended up getting expelled my junior year for dropping out of a school play to do professional work.
Oh, that's great.
And so I had gotten all this money to go. And then I did finish, but like a year after I wanted to, because my school was very strict. I was in a conservatory and they were like, you're here to learn. And I got a job with MTV filming a TV show for 2 weeks. I was like, but I'm going to go learn a lot more doing this thing. Yeah. I'm in a 17th century restoration comedy with 6 lines in a play, or I can film a TV show for 2 weeks. Where do you think I'm going?
That should have been something the school embraced.
A couple of my teachers did. But the dean wanted to prove a point out of me. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, that's not what we're here for. And other teachers were like, actually, it is.
Shit, that dean might have been jealous of you.
I mean, the beautiful part is while all my friends were doing the school plays, I then started auditioning for films in Pittsburgh. And I got into a couple movies, got into that TV show. So I was doing real work that was satisfying me and also encouraging me to say, hey, you can do this. Don't worry about being the bad student in school because you don't want to do the shitty work that they're giving you. Mm-hmm. You can do this for real when nobody probably thinks that you can. And the real world is saying, well, yeah, we like this guy.
Yeah.
So
you went where the work is. That's what every working actor does.
Yeah.
They go where the work is.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So tell me a little bit about how you got into comedy then. Did you start in Pittsburgh? Did you start in Baltimore?
No, I started out here. So
really?
I moved. So after I'd been doing the film and TV stuff for like a year in Pittsburgh, and I joined the Screen Actors Guild while I was still over there. I knew my best opportunity was to come to LA, which I'd always wanted to live in California. I was a skater growing up, and like the California lifestyle had just always beckoned to me. Mm-hmm. And so I moved out here to become an actor, started doing acting stuff right away, like, student films and small roles in low budgets and things. But 6 months later was super bored. And my friend was like, you should really be doing stand-up. And he was doing it a little bit out here. So I tried that. And the very first time I did it, I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for forever. I don't give a fuck about anything ever again. Just this. And that's kind of what happened. That was almost 14 years ago. Wow. So I started going, I still did acting stuff, but I went really hard on comedy. And so stopped taking acting classes for the most part and just was like, no, just comedy all the time. Open mics, shows, bringers, whatever the hell I can do to get on stage, figure out this side of things because nothing had ever illuminated me like stand-up did. Mm-hmm. Acting and stuff is fun, but you don't really know how you're doing because I think I'm doing a great job sometimes. And then I see the finished product 8 months later. I'm like, that fucking sucked, dude. Why didn't anyone tell me? Whereas stand-up, I know when I suck.
Yeah.
The audience tells
It's
me when I
immediate
suck.
feedback.
Immediacy. Yeah, vulnerability and immediacy. Two things I fucking love. And so I'm all about it. Yeah, there's, it's...
What do you love more, though? What do you, deep down, what do you want to do? Do you want to do both, or do you want to
stand up?
Just stand up.
I love acting. Here's the thing. I love acting and I love writing, but stand up is paramount to me doing all of it. The reason why I want more acting roles, why I want to sell more scripts and things like that, is so I can sell more tickets on the road and eventually just be like, get to the place where I'm always selling out, adding shows, moving up to bigger venues, things like that. Because as much fun as it is to be an actor, I get much more enjoyment from having it be my own. It's all my control, right?
Yeah.
It's my piece. I wrote everything. I control what happens up there. If I don't like the way a show's going, it's up to me to shift the energy. If I don't like a way a scene is going, maybe I have a little bit of say, maybe I don't. But I don't know I don't have control over what the finished product of a TV show looks like. But stand up, I do. I can visualize what I want up there and then go get it. And if I fail, it's completely on me. And, there's no one else to blame. I can't look at someone else and be like, well, that director didn't know what he was doing.
That audience member didn't know what he knew. That's
right.
awesome, man. But I think that's always like a big struggle for artists. Like I took acting classes and, I did some acting and I did stand up, and I was always struggling with like, what do I love more? And I think I do love stand up more because you have so much control. Whereas if you're an actor, you don't have any control. You're just a hired gun.
Yeah.
Even writers on television shows, just hired guns. And I always wonder, maybe I'll sit down with somebody who's writing on a TV show right now that was predominantly doing stand-up, but I feel like you have to make a choice. And I feel like a lot of comedians do make that choice, or I'm going to go write for this show. But it works out in some people's favors, like Conan O'Brien worked out in his favor.
Right, for sure. I mean, the thing about stand-up that it's a whole package of things that I have to deliver at the same time. If I'm an actor, I'm probably not the writer, and if I'm a writer, I'm probably not the actor. But stand-up, I'm all of it.
Yeah.
I'm the performer. I'm the one that needs to connect these thoughts. I'm the one you're paying money to hear what I have to say, what I've been thinking about, and that is a privilege I do not take lightly, because so I think some people do. I think some people forget that sometimes. Is they're like, I don't really feel like it. I'm just gonna fuck around. It's like, but those people paid money.
Yeah.
But like, is that what they want from you? Like, do they know you for just being the guy that always fucks off? Like, if so, okay, great. But for the most part, if they got a babysitter and they're shelling out $100 for a couple tickets and meals to see you, I owe you.
Especially on the road, because that's all, not here in LA, but on the road. That's what people want. They want a comic to come in and make them laugh and forget about their shitty mortgage that they're struggling to pay and forget all their problems. And I think you do it best because you immediately, like, you come out and you're like, we're going to have a good time.
For sure.
That's like the first thing that like I notice about you when you're on a show. I'm like, this is going to be a good show.
Thank
Alex
you.
is on the show. Well, that's another thing that I find a little weird in LA is people don't support each other.
Yeah.
I've always found that a little weird because when I started in New York, everybody kind of supported each other. And all those people that were supporting each other, they all made it. And that's big difference between New York and here. But I feel like LA is getting better. LA is definitely growing on me.
I think you have to find your crew. Right.
For sure.
Like, here's the thing. I felt a lot more supported my first few years, like actually at shows, because I would I'd be like, oh, I'm going to an open mic. Do you want to come with me? And we'll go together, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually stand up is a solo game for the most part.
Yeah.
We collab as much as we can. But for the most part, like, I feel more supported, but I hang out with those people less, like during a show.
Yeah.
I don't always I'm not always sitting in the back watching. Like as much as I love watching stand-up, especially after the pandemic, I loved watching it again. And after not having it for a couple months, this past few months, which we'll talk about later, like that's just, I love sitting in the back again and just fucking watching what my friends are doing.
Yeah.
I love it when they do well. I really really love it when they bomb. There is nothing I love more than watching someone that I know is a brilliant comedian struggle up there. Oh, when the panic sets in, it's so good. It's so good.
It's humbling. It's
Yes.
humbling for everybody. But that is cool. That's awesome. So, all right. So you're out here in LA, you're working it, you decide I'm going to do stand up. What would you say was your first opportunity?
For stand-up wise, I mean, my first year, I was just doing a lot of the first 6 months. All I did was bringer shows and shows that people would ask me to do. I didn't even go to an open mic because I didn't even realize that's what you were supposed to do. I will tell you this: when I was like 3 years in, I got asked to do the Meltdown show.
Nice.
And the Meltdown show, which it was a show on Comedy Central for 3 seasons, but there was a live show in LA that happened for many years first, and being on that show was really a badge of honor. If you were on it, like, it just meant that you were doing the right things. People were seeing you. You were kind of in this cool kids club, and getting to do that show. And I was very fortunate. It was a weekly show. I got to do it almost as much as anyone. I did it like 10 times. I would do it like every 6 months. And the first time I was on it, the lineup was Mark Maron, Ali Wong, Sean Donnelly.
Sean Donnelly.
Yeah, I
know Sean Donnelly.
Yeah. He was on there. I think Adam Caton Holland was on that one. My second time I did it, it was Jesselnick, Aziz, Hannibal, Jim Gaffigan.
Wow.
I mean, so I'm 3 years in. I'm like, fuck, how did I get here? Like, this is nuts. And the show made me work my ass off, because even though I knew I was a newer comic and I knew I was getting better, that show was like, well, look who I'm on here with. I better fucking bring it right now.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, headlining is super fun, but when you're the low man on the totem pole, when you're at the bottom of it, you work so much harder to impress those people and also the audience, because the audience, all they know is, yeah, they might not know who I am, but at the time, they didn't know who Ali Wong was either. Mm-hmm. We're all just proving ourselves. And if they see us like, well, he's on this show with Donald Glover and, the Chelsea Pereira, like, he must be good too, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when I go in there. I'm like, they don't know who I am now, but I will go in there and I will show them.
Yeah.
And doing that show a lot really did give me confidence, and also made me write in a really unique way. Kind of really helped me find my voice.
Did you start writing with intention at that point? That's kind of where I started. I changed. For a long time, I was like this guy. I was like, I'm just going to wait till they come to me. That's how I was. And
when you were on stage, you mean? Like, you would kind of take it slow? Like, what do you...
No, I was just standing there in silence.
Yeah.
No, what I would do is I wouldn't write a joke unless it came to me. I know that sounds stupid.
No.
But I was like, because I feel like the jokes come up in everyday life. And then I was like, okay, when I come up with it in real life, but I think, that was a big switch when I was like, I need to write with intention. I need to just write.
Yeah.
That was like a big moment for me when I was like, oh, this is how everybody else is doing it. They're writing with intention. Whether, they're writing for an album or a special, there's an intention. That's why an album or a special has, a title. It has a name.
Sure.
It has a tone, a theme. So I started changing that, but I feel like for the longest time, I was just like, when is it going to come? Like,
but no, here's the thing. But in the beginning, though, like, maybe it's best to not have an intention of where because you're still figuring so much out. You don't really know about how all of this works, and you're discovering who you are as a writer, as a performer, as an artist. And so, dude, I was doing stuff in my first, I think between years 2 and 4, I was a fucking animal. Like, if I had an idea, I didn't care how outlandish it was. I would try it. I was going up there doing characters, doing one-liners, changing my style halfway through a set. Yeah. I was just doing whatever it could because I was discovering myself.
Yeah.
Eventually, I started when I started going to a lot of music festivals and realizing, oh, these are my people. This culture is really what I'm looking for. These kind of just uninhibited, free-range, artistic spirits just flying through the wind, doing whatever they want, wearing whatever they want. And I hid myself from that. I was like, okay, my festival self can't meet my comedian self. Those are two different things. People won't take me seriously on the comedy side if they see me wearing a glow-in-the-dark tail and a rainbow coat, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why? Of course I should. Those are the best version of Alex Hooper is when he's running around on drugs at a festival, feeling completely invincible, unafraid of everything, being kind, being loving, being silly, being whimsical and fun. Well, why wouldn't I put that Alex Hooper on stage all the time? And that's when I started that's when I started trying it in roast battle, like wearing silly outfits. And then I started wearing the kimonos and I was like, oh, I really feel like I'm stepping into myself.
Yeah.
Now. And that's where I really started to learn who I was and what I wanted to talk about.
So you were like, I'm going to put the best version of Alex Hooper on that stage.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because there's this, like, it sounds kind of silly, but like me at a festival, I'm so I call it free range, Alex. Like I am out of my cage. I can do anything. I have all the strength, all the energy. I can talk to anybody and I can make any situation more fun than it already is. Mm. Okay. Well, that sounds like pretty good qualities to put on stage when you're performing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to attract an audience of people that are like that have those same kind of thoughts, that just see the world in a silly way and want to have fun all the time.
Yeah.
And so by wearing these outfits and stuff like that, and just basically by just being a creative goof and doing whatever I'd like, I have found that I am attracting a certain type of person that does fuck with what I do, because I still have all this darkness inside of me that needs to come out, and it comes out through my comedy. And I think my comedy is a lot darker than people would expect necessarily when you see me as a person, but it's dark in a very magical way, I find.
I feel like you're showing us that we should be laughing at all these dark things, because that's the only way to deal with it.
Yeah, it's the best way to deal with it, at least, in my opinion.
I agree.
You know, when people can't laugh at themselves or a situation, I feel bad for them. I feel sorry for them that they can't find it. People that get annoyed over like traffic and stuff like that. It's like, this is where you're going to explode over this. Yeah. You have zero control right now. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And I've definitely annoyed a lot of people with my who cares. Like, it doesn't matter that we got a flat tire on the way to the gig. We'll get it fixed and we'll get there when we get there. And people are like, what is wrong with you? Is there anything that again, I spent my whole life angry and depressed. I don't want to live like that anymore.
I know the feeling, and you're right. That's what you need to do, is like, you get some people don't get it. Some people don't get it, and they will carry that hate and anger for years. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Yeah. Do it all the time.
We got to do work on yourself, right? You have to acknowledge that you are that person and decide if you want to be that person or not. And the more I illuminate myself and the person I want to be, the more I shine it upon others. And then I find myself surrounded by a shit ton more people that think in a similar way that I do. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that I'm getting trapped into a bubble, because we all have our own diversity and we all have our own different things that we want. But I am aligning myself with people that lead with love and fun, as opposed to people that want to complain or just be miserable all the time.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a great way to look at life, and I am totally on board with you. So tell me about how America's Got Talent happened for you, and has not only happened for you once, happened for you twice. So 3 times.
Well, two seasons. But
2 seasons.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how did that start? How did it first happen?
So I never intended to go on that show. I had written it off many years ago that it was for a different style comedian than myself. I always thought I was too niche and too dark and dirty, to be honest. I'm not that dirty, but like, I'm crude, I'm suggestive. So they came to Roast Battle because they wanted somebody to roast the judges. And they basically took 5 of the top people doing Roast Battle at the time, and they had us audition, gave us like front of the line passes so we wouldn't have to, wait it out and stuff like that. And I did it in a way that I had just done on Comedy Central, where I'm wearing my festival wears. Like I was wearing a rainbow or a bright red sparkly unitard with fur and a tail, and it just like and I showed them that, and I was like, they were like, yeah, you want to come on and do this? And I was like, okay. And I just kind of thought like, all right, they probably won't like this, but I'll go in there and I'll just do my thing, and then I'll get off stage, and who knows what, maybe they will like it. Nope. They hated it, which was my biggest fear all along, that then nobody would understand what I'm doing, because I didn't understand why America's Got Talent wanted a roaster on there. Like, it just didn't seem, I was like, wait, you came to Roast Battle and you saw the fucked up things that we say in there, and you were like, we should put this on American television.
I saw you on a clip of you on Roast Battle. That was fucking awesome. There was the mic drop one. You dropped the mic.
Oh, shit.
It was like just so perfect. It was just like, just this, like, the writing, and I just like see it. I'm like, oh man, it was so perfect.
Thank you.
So that came before the America's Got Talent.
Yeah, so that was we filmed that in January 2017 was season 2 of Roast Battle on Comedy Central, and then 2018 is when I filmed for America's Got Talent.
Gotcha.
So it was a little over a year later, and obviously, like, I went out there and I bombed, in my opinion. I thought that's when 3,000 people are screaming at you to get off the stage, you have no choice except to say, I'm bombing right now.
I've been there.
Yeah, 3,000?
I did the Apollo Theater.
Oh, God.
I did amateur night at the Apollo.
Woo! What were you thinking? I mean, that's balls. That's balls, dude. I give it up to you for that.
Stand up for 1 year.
Oh, wow. I can't even believe you got on there. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was, it's my biggest credit to date. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no, I get it. So 3,000 people are screaming at you to get off the stage.
Yeah, and I'm in full panic mode, and I don't think I'm doing a good job, but I just kept going. I was supposed to be up there for 2 minutes. I was up there for over 7, because Simon wasn't pressing his button, even though everybody else had. And so I literally just went down the line and roasted all of them, and everybody hated me. And then I spent 2.5 months worrying every single day about what this would do to my career, if they would even ever air it. Like, in my mind, I just had the biggest opportunity in my life, and I fucked it up completely. But luckily, editors and producers did not see it that way. They saw that I had very much achieved what I had come there to do, which was break the mold of that show and, turn people's heads. I tell everyone this when they want to go on America's Got Talent. Your job is to be as memorable as possible, however you need to do that, because mediocrity does not make good TV. But if you have a killer set and you raise the whole roof and everybody goes nuts, great. Or you need to bomb your goddamn fucking dick off as hard as you have ever bombed in your life. And mine, while it felt like a bomb at the time, the way it is in the editing floor and the way they put it together makes it look like it's very intentional. Talk about doing something with intention. I did not do this with this kind of intention. I did not. I went in there thinking, okay, I'll have a little fun. I'll make fun of the judges. I'll be on my way. I didn't realize that the internet was then going to turn me into this martyr for like wokeness, essentially. Like all of a sudden it hits the internet. I think I'm bombed. I'm not even touching my phone because I'm too afraid to go near it. And meanwhile, I'm getting texts like, you got to go into these comments, dude. Everyone loves you. The internet loves you. And I realized it's not the people that watch the show that clip was for. It's for the people that don't watch that show and go, well, isn't it just a bunch of like sad people like juggling and stuff like that? And it's like, oh, who the fuck is this guy that went in there and just played his own game and just told them off while flipping a tail? What are we doing here?
Yeah, it was a nice, I mean, I've seen it, and it was a very nice change. on the show. I mean, you can't do like a real roast battle on that show. But,
No, I was a disruptor, right?
Okay.
I went in there to disrupt, and status achieved, and it was great. Went very viral, and it kind of just the messages I got from comedians were the most encouraging, because I had like huge headliners reaching out going, dude, this is immortal. This will always be funny. Like, you just raised your stock so much by doing something like this. And when you hear those people saying it, it's one thing it's great to realize you're getting a fan base of people that understand. But when your peers start recognizing you when you felt like maybe they hadn't before, that's a very good feeling.
Some validation with that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, because again, I never know what I'm doing. I never know. That same year, I had put out a calendar called Pug Yoga of my pug and I doing yoga together, and that ended up on the Ellen show that year. So I'm like, wait a minute. I made a stupid calendar of my pug and I doing yoga. Now all of a sudden that's on Ellen. Now a couple months later, I'm filming for America's Got Talent. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to keep doing whatever stupid fucking ideas I come up with, because clearly I am being rewarded by following through. And I think that's a big lesson, is you can have the stupidest idea on the planet, but if you follow through with it and you find out where it can go, who knows what's going to happen? You know?
I've seen some very questionable products on the shelves in the convenience store down here. So literally they're like, and I don't think it's a dumb idea. I think it's just kind of like, it's an idea.
Right.
It's an idea. I mean, Chelsea Lynn, she has her calendar does pretty well. She does the calendar thing.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, did you make a lot of money off that?
I didn't make a lot of money, but we donated like $1,000 to pug rescue groups. Nice. And like, it wasn't a big money maker, but we did sell out of our run of the calendars. The thing about calendars that's really tough is people are like, dude, you got merch for the year. And I'm like, nope, you have merch for a month. You have 2 months to sell a calendar. You have December and you have January. After that,
people don't buy them anymore.
No one's buying calendars anymore. Yeah. So luckily we sold out and didn't have a stack of boxes of calendars sitting there that we couldn't use. But yeah, I mean, it was just a good year for me. Like, things were really like heating up, and I could feel it happening.
So that was like 2018, 2019.
2019, then I started to headline a lot more because of America's Got Talent and Roast Battle. Like, I had done the 2 pretty big credits right back to back. And so I was able to then start proving that I also know how to do stand-up. Because that's the funny thing about what I did on America's Got Talent is club owners will see that and they go, so are you just going to like roast everyone like while wearing a weird outfit? And I'm like, no, I do stand up. And they're like, well, where's that footage? And I send them a tape or whatever. Maybe they watch it, maybe they don't, who knows? But like, then I have to like really prove to you, though, like, no, stand up is what I'm really good at. The roasting thing is just a character. That's just me being a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But the stand up is what I really want to go for, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, people don't know, because I've gotten all my TV appearances from roasting for the most part. So, you know,
you're like, hey, I've got stories to tell on stage.
For sure. Well, that's what a club owner in Tampa, the owner of Side Splitters, was like, you know, I know you on your website, it says like, you know, stand-up actor, professional roaster or whatever, but like, you're a storyteller. Like, people don't realize that when they come to see you, and they leave realizing that you have all of these great tales and you know how to throw them in with punchlines. You're not a roaster. You just know how to roast. And I'm like, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean,
I think, you know, I didn't even know that you had been doing the roasting thing at all when I first saw you. I think it was when I saw you do a Lazy Susan joke. Because I also have a Lazy Susan joke. And I was like, God, I love it because it's a little dark, but it's not. And at the same time, it's like, people would say it's like edgy. And I'm like, not like, I don't know. But I just enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, this is how I know I'm going to like this guy, because he has a Lazy Susan joke.
Here's the thing. Some people, and I like that you went that route, because a lot of people would be intimidated or be like, think of it as a competition, right? But like, it's like, oh, I like when people have a similar premise that I do to see where they take it. Because like, that thing is like, oh, I can't do a robot joke because Whitney Cummings did a robot joke. What? How many people work on robots? Millions. Like, you think they can't work on them because other people are? Like, no, what's your angle?
Yeah, it's exactly. What's your point of view? What's your angle? And if you're sitting in a writer's room, everybody's working on the same joke.
Yeah.
Everybody's working on one joke. So I guess, I don't know. I thought about sharing my Lazy Susan joke with you.
You should.
I pulled it up yesterday, but let me see if
Because I don't even remember mine now. Mine went on my last album, and a lot of times when I put things on an album, I totally forget them the very next day. My brain's like, well, don't need that one anymore. But it.
Lazy Susan.
This is when the podcast really gets good, when we start looking at our phones for a bit that we can't remember right now.
I mean, I never told this joke on stage, but I just wrote it one day.
That's even better, because now we can see what we can do with it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I dated this girl Susan once. She had no ambition, so I just called her Lazy Susan.
Okay, that's a fun tweet.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at how I was trying to work it out. A friend told me he just bought a Lazy Susan. I said, is she a prostitute without any ambition? That's kind of like,
it's getting there.
It's getting there.
Right. So Anthony Jeselnik refers to this thing he calls third thought, right? Your first thought for what a punchline should be is what everybody's expecting it to be. Your second thought is what like comedians or like the smarter people in the audience that are trying to figure out might get to. But your third thought is probably going to stand alone, that nobody else has figured that one out. So I really like to think about that when I first write a punchline. I'm like, no. Not the second one either. Let me get to at least the third one, and then at least then I know I will have like opened the door as wide as possible to see what's in the room. A writer told me when I was trying to write a script, they're like, it's all in the rewrite. Or when I was writing a sketch, I think it was, it's always in the rewrite. But I never thought about applying that to a joke. Oh yeah.
And then I realized one day, I was like, oh, you need to rewrite this joke over and over again. I mean, what do you think Seinfeld is doing? Seinfeld sits in a room all day and writes jokes probably. And rewrites, he probably pulls out his old jokes and he's rewriting them. But that's what you got to do. And I think that, I do think it's really cool when someone does get up on stage unprepared, though. I've always found that really fascinating. Not prepared, not doing anything that was rehearsed. But most stand-ups are not like that.
Yes, I think certain people have that, like because crowd work clips are huge right now, right? You see them all over social media, but really, there are only a few people that are true masters at crowd work. The other people I find, yeah, sure, you showed us what you can do in 17 seconds with one good comeback, but to do that consistently as your set, like an Ian Bagg or something like that, now you're in a whole different world, right? And it's not that Ian Bagg can write a great joke, but he's so good at crowd work and about tying everything together that he's been doing this for many, many years before it became like a fad, which is kind of what it is now. It's almost, look, I'm not railing against it, but I think it can be lazy sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm just going to go up there and talk to the crowd. It's like, you didn't think about, you're going up there to just talk to them when they paid money to see you. Like, you didn't have any prepared thoughts, that nothing's going through your mind other than you want to know what these people do and then make fun of it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird time, I think, in stand-up. And I think it's kind of evolving. But
isn't it always, though?
It is. But I think that, it is, we'll see. I don't really know. Like, I'm not, I would say in terms of like Orny Adams. Okay. I see a guy like Orny Adams get up on stage and I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, now he must have something somewhat prepared, but the way he improvises is insane. And I've always just really admired that. Although it's not my style, I can appreciate it, is what I guess what I'm getting at is like, I can appreciate the little differences in every comic, whether they're doing crowd work or whether they're doing prepared material, whether they're doing one-liners, whether they're telling stories. I kind of appreciate everybody in their own way. But yes, I do feel like right now the audience is like, they see a short clip online and it's like one little thing, one little interaction. And okay, but where's the originality what's coming next.
It's hard to put those in those little tiny clips. That's the thing, is like when I have trouble clipping my shit because most of my stuff is built upon the last thing that happened before it, right? And so out of context, these 30 seconds, you're like, well, where did that come from? And it's like, oh, if you saw the full 7 minutes, it makes perfect sense why that's in the middle. But that's the only little part of it that I can clip. So it kind of stands on its own. And then people are like, but did it? Where did it come from? It's like, maybe you should come see me live. And then you'll see the whole lead up that gets me to that point, you know? Because I think of myself, cohesion is very important to me. Fluidity is very important to me when I'm on stage. I never want to be doing one joke and then you're like, why is he talking about table legs now? A second ago, he was talking about, you know, the mating rituals of bats in Uganda. And now he's talking about tables? Like, where? I don't know. And then suddenly, they're not with you anymore.
You're losing the audience.
Right. Because like you said, I want them to have that escape. I want them to not think about shit, except just have fun with me for the next hour. That's what I'm looking for.
Who was your biggest influence?
First comedian I ever saw live, I was 14 and I saw Dave Chappelle live at Towson University in Maryland, and didn't find this out until many years later, but Dane Cook opened for him that night, which 14-year-old kid, 1999, Dane Cook, Dave Chappelle back to back. Losing my fucking mind. And not even knowing who Dan Cook was, but I remember thinking how fucking funny the opener was. And I remember, and when my friend told me it was almost 20 years later, it was more than 20 years later when he told me that's who it was. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like picturing him in my head. I was like, of course it was. Of course it was Dane Cook. He was running all over the stage, doing these huge bits. But growing up, I loved Hedberg. I loved Carlin. I watched like all of his HBO specials. I loved Andrew Dice Clay because when I was 13, I rented all his tapes from the video store. And a 13-year-old kid, if you don't like Andrew Dice Clay at 13, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what kind of upbringing you're having, but it's very different from whatever I'm going through. And yeah, so I mean, they were all of those ones. Like Chappelle was very important to me for a long time, as was Hedberg, because I love the absurdity of his writing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were good ones. And I mean, now I'm just so inundated and surrounded by it that like, I mean, there's, you know, I can lift up 1,000 people just by as soon as I start thinking about it. When one of my friends are like, who should I be listening to? I'm like, oh, you ready for this? You're not going to have heard of any of these people, but start writing. You ready?
Yeah.
And then I just give them a bunch of my friends that I know are killing it or about to explode to help them, you know?
Yeah. I saw Chappelle. That was my first stand-up show too.
Oh, cool. How old were you?
This is 99, I think. 99, 2000. Right around the same time.
Probably the same tour.
Probably. He played Good Nights in Raleigh. And I remember, because I grew up, I always loved Rodney Dangerfield. All his movies, like, and I didn't get any of the jokes when I was a kid. I mean, I saw him for the first time when I was 5 years old, but the physical humor got me. And then years later, the jokes, oh my God, they were so good.
Oh, they're so good. It's so snappy, so quick. And then his faces are just like that kind of, oh God, it's so addicting.
And then in college, I remember seeing this ad to see Chappelle. So we were just like, let's go see Chappelle. And totally life-changing. Just, I think at this point he had done, he had only done like Half Baked.
Yeah, Half Baked
and Con Air.
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah, he had just had all these like minor roles well before Chappelle Show.
Oh yeah, I'd seen him do maybe a little bit of stand-up, but I think I was mainly going because of Half Baked. But I'll tell you this, like, just because I always think about that first experience, like that 14-year-old sitting in that audience, having no idea I would ever be a stand-up. And when we filmed Roast Battle Season 2, Chappelle was at the tapings, and he walked up to me afterwards, and he just goes, man, you are so funny up there. You did so good. And I was like, okay, I have to tell you, you were the first comedian I ever saw live, 14 years old, Towson University, 99. He goes, you were at that show? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, and now I'm here watching you. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, that's the best thing I ever heard, man. Give me a hug. And I was like, best thing you ever heard? Best thing I ever heard, Dave Chappelle. Oh my God.
All swole Dave Chappelle now. Like,
yeah, right.
ugh.
My mom was like standing right next to me because she had come out for the tapings, which was very kind of her. I had to shut her up after day one because she was screaming from the audience too much.
That's awesome.
My mom is very much like me. She's very loud and very animated and doesn't know when to turn off the annoying switch sometimes in a beautiful way.
In a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Man, that's so awesome. Like, that's, I don't know where I'm just like losing my mind here because like Chappelle was the first guy you saw too.
Yeah, I love that.
That's awesome.
Hey, $10 back then, never gonna happen again, everybody.
Shit, I remember too because like when we saw him, like the guy I was working for this guy who owned a ski shop, and he was like, "Oh, I can get us all a table there." And we were like, "Ooh, I mean, probably." He was like, "I'm bringing 10 people." They're like, "Oh, you can have a table."
I remember because I was 14. My friend and I were like, "Oh, we'll go to Towson early. That's where the show is, and we'll rollerblade around the campus."
Yeah, like
that was the age I was where I was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go early so we can rollerblade." And we showed up like at the show, like holding our skates.
That's awesome, man. All right, so I want to change gears a little bit.
No, we take
Here we go. We're taking the turn now. Alex, you had some really devastating, I think what would be devastating news to almost everybody back in August, if I'm correct here.
Correct.
So you were diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Stage 3, baby.
Stage 3 back in August.
Yep.
And your life took quite a turn. So,
quite the turn indeed.
So tell me, first of all, first thought that went through your head.
To be honest, when I was diagnosed, relief. Because I had spent 3 months testing and going through all of these possible options. And when you are in the unknown phase of, something is fucking up inside your body, but they're just guessing what it is. So they have to do all these tests, like all these biopsies and PET scans, MRIs, CT scans, blood work, like all of I had a bone marrow biopsy, which is, oh man, you ever get a bone marrow biopsy? That is the weirdest pain I have ever felt in my life because like they do numb the area, but you can't numb bone. And so when they're just like gigging this needle in there, it's like that long. Shit. They're literally holding you down.
Where did you get the biopsy?
In my
your hip?
In my hip, yeah.
In your hip. Okay. I don't know how they do it. Like, I work in a different area, so
yeah.
But
so basically, as soon as they told me, though, all right, it was either stage 4 head and neck cancer or stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. They were very glad to see it was stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And basically, as soon as they told me, I was like, great. Now, what do we do to get rid of it? Because I'd been living in peril for the last few months. I was living my life, but so many doctor's appointments and so much tension about, well, what is it going to look like if I do have cancer? What happens next? I don't know anything. Once they said, here's the type of cancer it is, here's the type of chemo we're going to do, here's how often you're going to do it, and here's when we're going to finish up by. I was like, great, let's fucking go. But it definitely rattles your cage pretty hard when you consider yourself a fairly healthy person and suddenly you learn that you have one of the, a very deadly disease, very perilous,
Yeah.
It's, and my whole thing was off the bat, just don't be scared of it, right? Is be transparent about what you're going through. Don't hide. Because part of me was like, maybe I won't tell anybody. Because Norm Macdonald had just had it, right? And he had I think this was like right after he died, and Norm didn't tell anybody for 10 years that he had cancer. Like I think his wife knew, but not even his closest friends knew. And I thought, well, maybe I could do that. And then I was like, no, I can't. Like
that's not you.
It's just not who I am. Yeah. And that's what so when I made that video after I got diagnosed saying, hey, everybody, I have cancer, all these people were like, that was like the most you thing you could have done. But honestly, it's because I didn't want like my appearance to start changing or my energy to start changing and people asking like, are you okay?
Well, then it turns into he's hiding something, you know,
Right.
and then, you know, oh, I don't know. I mean, people are judgmental, but really it's the first thing. Hey, everybody, you're getting in front of it and you're saying, hey, I want you all to know that I have cancer and I'm going to I mean, you're reaching out and you're telling people it's okay. I'm going to fight it. You can jump on this battle with me.
Yeah.
Come on board. Let's go.
Dude, I am so glad I did because there's a GoFundMe out there for me, and I didn't want to do that because I very much just didn't want to seem like a needy person. I didn't want to have to rely on the kindness of others and say like, guys, I really need some financial help right now. But my wife was like, and her sister's the one that did it, and she was like, when someone in a community is sick, the other members of that community rally around them to get them better. And you are sick right now. And you have a giant network of people that would love to help you. And if you're not allowing them, you are doing yourself a disservice. And immediately, fuck, it helped so much because I imagine Norm, you know, and he was also a gambler. So he had a lot of secrets kind of going around in there, like kind of about the way he lived his life. But I imagined him not being able to talk about it, but it being on his mind all the time.
Yeah.
And that had to be so difficult because all of the dopamine blast that I got from the amount of like times I would like make an update and post it on social media. And then all these people would flood in. You're doing great. Blah, blah, blah. We love you so much. Like keep fighting. That all those things that said, oh yeah, that's right. I have so much love in this world. Why would I not just tell them that I'm having a hard time right now? And it made everything easier just by making jokes about it right off the bat. Like, sure, let's laugh. And everything fell to shit these past 6 months. Everything. I mean, I can't even go into some of the stuff that happened, but like, you know, I lost my dad while I was in the hospital unexpectedly. He was 79. So like, it's not like, oh my God, what happened there? Like, but I wasn't expecting him to go yet, and he did. And I'm still processing that because that happened when I was in the hospital for 33 days after going septic, not from the chemo, but from the surgery to put in a portacath so they can put in the chemotherapy. 2 months after they did it. So for those of you that don't know out there, a lot of things, you can either get a PICC line, which is what I have in right now.
Show it off, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Show it off.
Let's do it, right? Let's put it. Let's show you guys what I got.
could service that PICC line for you.
Oh, baby. Yeah, so this is a PICC line, everybody, and the chemo just goes in right through this little thing.
Single lumen PICC
right
line.
Here. Yep. But what they did, because I was going to have 6 months of chemo, was they put in this little port right here. And so they would just stick a little needle in there, and then all the drugs would go right through, and I never had to worry about anything on the outside of my body. Well, 2 months after we did this surgery, I got infected. And the only reason we knew that is because one night I woke up from a nap after I'd been feeling really shitty. I was like 4 treatments in, had no side effects. So I was like, why am I suddenly feeling all of this? Is that what happens if the treatments all like added up and like it's an aggregate where now all of a sudden they're compounding on each other? And I walked out of my bedroom. My wife's on the couch. I walk into our kitchen and just start peeing. And she turns around, she goes, Alex, no, not there. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I went, oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. You're right. And then I walked into her office and just pissed all over the wall. God. And she's like, Alex, what is wrong with you? Suddenly realizing things are not kosher. I take off all my clothes and just sit there on the toilet while she calls 2 of our best friends. And they come over and immediately take me to the hospital because they realize I am not in any sort of state to be left at home. When I got to the hospital, checking into the emergency room, didn't know my own name, didn't know what year it was, didn't know who the president was, didn't know any of the questions they asked me. And that's when they realized something was really wrong. I was actually having a series of embolisms. And basically from when the infection, it got infected, it moved over to my heart, caused a 1 centimeter vegetation in my heart, which then proceeded to go up to my brain. And I was essentially, I was stroking out when I went there. And so, and then I found out I was septic when I got there. They realized what's happening here. Oh, his blood has turned to poison and he will be dead within 36 hours if we don't really do something right now. They told my wife that. They told her, they were like, hey, this is really serious. You need to brace yourself for the worst. And she spent 5 hours thinking, like crying with her sisters or her family and like, just like, what are we got married 6 months ago. What are we do? How are we at this place?
Yeah.
Right. And then I ended up in the hospital. I was there for 33 days while they dealt with the sepsis and the infection and everything else. And dude, I mean, I'm a very active person. Like we've talked about. I'm silly, I'm fun, I'm whimsical, right?
You play tennis.
I play tennis. I slackline. I'm a hiker. Like my body is in tune with what I am doing. I pride myself on how I am on my resilience and my conditioning of my body. And suddenly I was bedridden for 2.5 weeks and had to relearn how to walk because my sepsis had broken me down to the point where I was weaker than I'd ever been and I couldn't even stand on my own legs anymore.
Wow.
So, and this was the end of November.
Wow.
Yeah, and here we are at the very beginning of March and I'm hiking again and things like that. I mean, it took a while. But
it's crazy that this became infected because they put this in to decrease the risk of infection.
Yeah.
And it became infected. Wow.
And dude, and I was searching Reddit and stuff like that, the cancer forums and stuff like that. Like, has this happened to anybody else? And everybody was like, it happens, but I've never heard of it happening to that degree.
Yeah.
Where you were in the hospital for over a month.
Dude, you had a minor stroke. If you had emboli that traveled to your brain, you had a stroke.
I did. I had a stroke. And that's the part that I haven't even been able to talk about on stage yet.
Yeah.
Just because I know, like, okay, it is inherently funny that I peed all over our kitchen, that my wife told me to stop, and I walked into her office to finish. That's fucking hysterical.
Without alcohol being involved.
Right. Yeah. No alcohol, no drugs. I was just fucking losing my mind, literally. So it's, again, like, I have to laugh about this shit because when I was in the hospital, there were certain days when I really was just like, fuck this. I've lived a really good life up till now. If this is what it is moving forward, I don't want this anymore. Like, but I don't know.
You've come out the other side. So if I'm now at this point, all right, at this point, you are finished with your chemotherapy, correct?
So as far as my scheduled treatments go, yes. We're done. They're not scheduling anymore currently. We do a PET scan in 2 weeks from today. Actually, I do a PET scan, and then they'll know within a couple of days whether or not we need to continue any form of treatment.
Gotcha.
I'm treating it like it's over because they told me I was going to do chemo for 6 months. I had to stop for 2 months when I went into the hospital because my body they couldn't have put chemo through me when I was in this purely weakened state.
Yeah.
So they had to stop all that and take care of all the other problems that were going on inside of me. And then we started the chemo again in middle of January, I think. And they were like, we think we can get it out in 4 more treatments. And they told us that. Then my wife and I were like, great, then we're going to resume our lives and stop living in this state of, oh God, am I going to be able to go do this? Like, I'll say this. Because I'm not mad at cancer for like entering my body. I didn't, but it came here. It's my job to slow down and learn some lessons because I was going really hard for a long time. And not just partying, but also just the way I was living, my comedy lifestyle. I was hitting as many shows and mics as I could. And I was trying to write every day and do as much as I could all the time. And this has made me go, all right, maybe like pull back a little bit and let's point a little bit more where we want to be instead of just like flailing around hoping that something sticks,
Yeah. I think a lot of people do that in comedy though. Just, people think if you're not out there like performing every night, you're not hustling, but that's not true because look what kids are doing on the internet now.
I know.
They're not going to any open mics. They're just standing in front of a camera or in front of a phone. But I do feel like I get that the drive is there and you want to do it every night, but you also have to take care of yourself. Like lack of sleep is a contributor to developing cancer.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. I mean, I don't sleep well. I mean, I'm
up here. It comes for you, then, Shaun.
God, but I'd rather be on the other end giving care to. How are the nurses, by the way?
So here's what I will say. My nursing staff was always incredible. My team of doctors was amazing. My oncologist was great. Hollywood Presbyterian was where I was, and I jokingly say it's where homeless people go to scream, because it is in the middle of East Hollywood, and in the wintertime especially, homeless people are just going there all the time.
Yeah.
They go in because they're cold and they're not feeling well or whatever. And man, that place, the staff great. Everything else about that place, Jesus, was I not in the hospital?
I remember
you
posting, and I was like, "Shit, Alex is like in one of the worst hospitals in LA." I was like, "We do have good hospitals here. We do." I don't know. Was it an insurance thing or
it was just a convenience
because that was what was closest to your apartment when you got
like 3
sick.
miles away.
Yeah.
It was like the closest major hospital, and I mean, my wife was like, if I had known what that place was, I would have gone out of my way to take you to Cedars or whatever the fuck else, because no, my insurance is actually pretty good, and we actually upgraded my insurance at the start of this year, just because we knew we were going to have to get more scans and things like that. And I mean, I'm doing a joke right now about what my medical bills that are coming in.
I remember.
It's such a joke, dude. Like it's such a scam. And the fact is, I mean,
have you seen my videos?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I just want people to know this shit. That's it. It's all a fucking it's about you, man. But I get riled up about this shit.
As you should, because we just kind of complacent with the system that we have because there is no other option. But one of my biggest points right now is if you send me a bill for $350,000, I just open it up and laugh at it because that's not a real number to me that I'm going to pay. But if they sent me a bill for $9,000, I'd be like, oh, fuck. Because I do have that. And that would actually be kind of crippling to me if I lost $9,000 right now.
Yeah.
I would think I have to pay that. But when you tell me I owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm like, okay, yeah, you'll get it. Have fun. It's
take IOUs.
Dude, it's absolutely insane. And if they just I know why they do it, I'm sure, but if they actually gave you real numbers, I'd be so much more scared.
The thing is I still get, I just go to the doctor for stuff here or there, and I've had a couple medical issues. Shit, I got meningitis during COVID, which is fucking weird.
That's a nasty one.
It was bad. And I went to the hospital because I had to. I had no other option. It's in the middle of COVID too. And I think that hospital visit, just a trip to the ER, I did have a scan. I had a spinal tap. It was like $12,000. And I was like, for an hour and a half? I was there for an hour and a half. The fastest ER visit ever, by the way. And I was just there are people that get bills like that don't have sometimes you'll go into a hospital and you don't have the insurance, but they'll care for you. And then bam, that bill comes to you.
Okay, but let me ask you this, because here's what I have been told is that bill can go to collections, but collections can't lower your credit based on anything from a medical bill, is what I've been told by people on the internet, which obviously is the most reliable source.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know anything about collections, and I don't know too much. It's always beyond me when insurance takes care of it, but yet I have to see this itemized portion, and I'm like, oh, really? I mean, back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, people go to the hospital and they'd pay cash for shit. Pay cash, be no problem.
Yeah, right. What do you need? $40 for this operation? It's yours.
But it's
you take Bitcoin.
It's gotten out of hand, and I think a lot of people in healthcare are speaking up about it now, and people are afraid. Paranoia we were talking about earlier. People are afraid for no reason at all. And I think that at some point it's going to happen. At some point, whether we start working on it now But I read something, I'm not sure, some Scandinavian country I was reading about yesterday, but they have universal health care and they have a thriving economy. You know,
Right.
I
We
mean,
live in Scandinavia.
but that's what we're doing. And it's like so dumb because it's like we're just scamming each other. We're just. How could we live in the United States of America if we're not united?
Well, it's one of those things. It's like when you find out, like, oh, we're charging $400 for this pill. It costs us $1.88 to manufacture it. Okay, then literally that's just a person being greedy. If we can't see through that and get past that point and get things cheaper, like, you know, when people were arguing against the insulin having a price cap.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit. Like,
you know,
I hope all of your kids go diabetic. Like, sincerely.
It's crazy. I mean, insulin definitely probably one of the worst. I mean, I can't tell you how many diabetics I've known in my life. And some people are just born that way. Some people, you have a viral infection and then you end up as a diabetic, or as you get older, you end up as a diabetic.
Yeah, my sister's type 1 and my dad was type 2. So I had both experience. I had my sister who had to wear the pump, and then my dad who just had to inject himself a couple times a day because he ate like shit for a lot of his life.
Now, I'll admit, you know, I don't know the cost of making insulin, but come on. Really?
Cheaper now than it ever was. Guarantee you that.
Yeah, I know. I did hear last week that one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies is going to lower their price of insulin.
Great.
It's like step number 1.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people are, I don't want to go off on a huge tangent here, but I feel like a lot of people are just, I've been in a position before where I haven't had a job that paid for my health care, so I paid for it on my own, and it's ridiculously expensive. And when you're paying for it with your employer, you're kind of getting a discount.
Oh yeah,
but you're kind of not at the same time. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it seems like that you had good healthcare coverage and you haven't had to come too much out of pocket. Have you had to come out of pocket at all?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I hit my out of pocket limit last year, which was like $8,000 or something like that. So, and I'm probably going to hit it within the next couple months this year because bills are still coming in. But because I used to have it through my employer. I worked at Universal Studios for a long time in their guest services, and I paid $90 a month for a platinum level healthcare.
Yeah.
Now I have platinum level healthcare, and I think I pay close to $300 for it a month or something like that. But when you're going to all the doctor visits, they really add up when you're seeing them again and again and again and again. And so having a $15 copay instead of a $50 copay or whatever, it does make a difference in the end.
I just don't get the copay anyways. Like,
I know.
Why are we exchanging money again? Like, I have already exchanged the money. I've already paid for the health care.
I love when like the hospital sends me bills. Just so you know, this is not the doctor's bill. This is the hospital billing you. Your doctor will bill you separately.
Yeah.
I'm like, doesn't he work for you?
And I freely admit, like, I don't understand how it all works, but I understand that I'm paying into a system over and over again, and I'm not seeing a lot of benefit from it. And I'm seeing other people that it's kind of weird because just my whole thought process is just like a little bit of universal health care. Like, it doesn't even have to be much, like primary care visits and cheap medications, like blood pressure medications. You change the world, you change the country just a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, so one of the things I was doing, I was looking at, okay, my bills are almost $1 million. Like, you know, not that I owe, but that's what the
insurance is being charged.
That's what the sum is, right? And I Googled, what can you buy with $1 million? 390,000 doses of the polio vaccine, right?
Yeah.
So you can build 76 schools in Cambodia. You can get school supplies to 115,000 kids. Like, there are all these things that we could be spending real money on, as opposed to making up these arbitrary figures telling me what my healthcare costs when it really does not cost. $1 million was not spent on me in the past 6 months. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
They're just saying, oh, a PET scan? Yeah, that's $8,000. Sure. Yeah, we'll just throw it in there. No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, sure. If you if you took the number of PET scans this machine's going to give you and the amount you paid for it and you broke it down, you're probably talking $100 per scan or something like that. But they just throw out a number and then we're expected to just agree with it. We don't have to agree with it. You can negotiate medical bills.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, I don't know too much, like I said, about. I couldn't even tell you about my policy, man. All I know is it's the best, and I can go anywhere with it. That's all I know. Well, it's like the one thing I was like, I'm going to spend a little bit of money on my health insurance. I mean, I pay a couple $100 a month out of my own pocket.
But you're praying you get hit by a car. You're like,
I mean,
if it happens, I'm ready.
If it happens, I'm ready. But but it allows me things. I have a PPO, which allows me to go wherever I want. And not everybody has that. And because like I work in healthcare, sometimes I don't need to bother my health, my primary care provider. I don't need to call my doctor and say, hey, my shoulder, like I had to go get like an x-ray of my shoulder. I don't need to call him up and see him. But that's how the system is set up, is that you'll go to your primary. But if you know a little bit, you shouldn't. That's why I was like, I just pay to just cut my primary out.
Well, this is why it took people are like, why did it take 3 months for you to start doing chemo? It's because every time they would say you need to go to the specialist, I would call the specialist and say, okay, well, we need to get it approved by your insurance and then we can schedule you.
Yeah.
So the time you get the approval comes in, then they schedule you, 3 weeks have gone by. And meanwhile, these lymph nodes in my neck are going blip, 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 blip. And I'm just like, can I see somebody, please? And you're like, sure you can. As soon as we get that approval. Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate, that I had the care team that I did. I didn't realize what a big deal going septic was. I didn't really know about sepsis.
People die of sepsis
all the time. 1 out of 5 today's world die from sepsis if you go septic. I mean, which is crazy to think. But I really if my wife had not taken me to the emergency room 24 hours later, I probably would have just stop breathing, or I don't really know exactly what happens, but God, I mean, you feel so gross from going septic because my whole body swelled up. I gained almost 20 pounds just from my body swelling. And when they tell you, basically your blood has turned to trash, then you start thinking, instead of thinking of clean blood running through your system, I'm just thinking of brown, murky creek water, just that. I felt it's one of the reasons I cut my hair and everything too, because when I got out of the hospital, people think I lost my hair in the hospital. I didn't lose it.
You don't look like you lost any hair to me. I mean, I know you cut your hair.
I cut it. Yeah, it thinned out a lot. And because it was long and now thin, it looked very stringy. And I kind of felt like I don't like the way I look right now. Looking at myself, I can feel sickly just looking at it. And so when I cut it, it just kind of made me feel like, all right, not only am I climbing out of this, but I'm going to look good while I do it. I want to look in the mirror and be like, who is this person? And I'm still looking in the mirror saying, who is this person? Because I've never looked like this before. I've never had a beard. I haven't had short hair in over 15 years. I don't know who this person is. But I'm excited to figure it out. And being back out doing stand-up and stuff like that again has been fucking amazing. Just because I feel like a new person with new energy. And I think other people are seeing it too.
That's awesome. So you did have some side effects from the chemo. You lost a little bit of hair.
It thinned.
Did you ever feel nausea?
Yeah.
Did you feel the nausea at all, or
once or twice, but very minimally? Really, they gave me all the pills just to be ready for all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I almost never had to take them.
Amazing.
I don't know if it was just because I'm young and mostly healthy, or but all the side effects they said were going to happen basically didn't. And so that's when I was going septic after that 4th treatment, I just thought, finally the chemo's catching up. I didn't realize there was a whole other litany of shit happening inside of me that was working against me. That's what's crazy. People you beat cancer. I'm like, oh yeah, not yet, close, but I beat a lot of other things that you don't know about. That's the cancer is, people think cancer is how I ended up in the hospital. Kind of, but not really,
Yeah.
Yeah. My whole life is this dance of health problems. And that's even when I feel my absolute best, the eczema would flare up or something like that. So I've always dealt with something. So this is just another thing I have to circumnavigate to figure out how to get back to the life I want to live.
Wow. And the eczema pops up. Do you take medication for that every day?
So no, before cancer, I was on, it's called Dupixent. Like they play commercials for it. It's an injectable that you do every 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
And I'd been on that for probably like 4 or 5 years. Had to stop taking it when I got cancer, and I'm in no rush to get back to it, because also I haven't been drinking, I haven't been partying or anything like that, and my skin has felt really, really good. And part of myself, when I realized I had cancer, is maybe the chemo will just take everything out. Maybe whatever has been causing eczema in me for all these years will also like take a ride on the inner tube getting flushed out of my system. And I don't know, but I will say that my skin has been really good the last few months. So either the universe has given me a reprieve to say, well, we'll give you this one for a little bit and so you can stop thinking about it, and worry about this other thing. Or maybe it is just the living a cleaner lifestyle. I don't know, but not having to think about the eczema is pretty nice.
Like, put this one health problem aside while I deal with this one.
Well, the thing is, the eczema is the reason I hated myself for so many years. So it really, like, getting over that and not having to think about it, because even like, when I would be doing well, I would still be flaky and patchy and scabbed over and stuff like that. And so it was always kind of, you go into a commercial audition, you got a giant scab on your face. You're like, bet I'm going to book this one, right, Subaru?
I'd hire you with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot you've had to deal with. Again, another reason why I find you incredibly interesting and I admire you. Because you've literally, I feel like you've fought in a way that more people should.
I don't think it's that. I wish they would, and that's very kind of you to say that and acknowledge it. But like, I've realized it's not in everybody to walk into an infusion center with a positive attitude and a skip in their step. Most people are like, holy fuck, what, my daughter's crying over me. I'm in this situation that I never wanted to be in. I'm never going to get back to my life again. And I walked in there going, we're going to get it out? Great. Then I'm going to keep on dancing, everybody. Like,
you probably make an infusion center very fun, though.
They told me. So my last one was this past Thursday, my last scheduled treatment. And they were like, what are we going to do without you? I went, you'll figure it out. I don't ever want to come back here again.
Even if like, I feel like you would be that guy that like would go to the children's ward and like pump kids up and make them happy.
They've talked to me about doing that, and I would 100% do it.
Oh man, you'd be so good at that.
I'll be a Patchy Adams with my skin, right?
Oddly enough, Patch Adams was filmed in the same town I went to high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Where's that?
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's honestly, I've become kind of this, like, people have been reaching out to me a lot as they're getting cancer or a loved one is getting cancer, saying like, oh, I'm showing them your videos of like where you got it and how like positive you were being and how silly you're making it. And I don't want to become some like martyr for cancer people by any means, because it's just not what I'm looking for, but I'm happy that I can help you in any way. And I hope that like, yeah, okay, this guy's laughing about it. Maybe I can find a way to laugh about it, even when it is dark and depressing and scary.
Yeah. Well, that's like we were saying earlier, that is the best way to deal with things, is just to kind of figure out a way to laugh at it,
Laugh at everything all the time.
Alex.
Shaun.
This has been a great session.
Good. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
That's going to conclude our show today. Thanks for tuning in to Hellcare. Thanks to my guest, Alex Hooper, for sharing his story with us.
Great name, by the way. Hellcare. Well done.
Thank you very much. Alex, if there's anything you want to tell the viewers out there, right here into this camera.
Hi, everybody. HooperComedy.com for tour dates, at Hooper Hairpuff on all social media. I do a weekly podcast called Dirty Briefs. Go get it wherever you listen or watch podcasts.
And he's performing live all the time in LA. So if you come out to LA, reach out to Alex online and he'll tell you where he's performing.
Yeah. And soon San Francisco, Arizona, Tokyo,
International man.
Yeah, Texas. Yeah, I'm around, everybody.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Alex, and everyone else. Take care. Whatever. I haven't figured out a sign off yet.